What's up, everybody? It's your girl Megan, Show Up Fitness Instructor, and today I'm going to be going over basics of anatomy, talking about key anatomical terms, planes of motion, and muscle actions. Now, if you guys haven't heard already, I am our director of CPTs here at Show Up Fitness. So if you have any questions about any textbook CPTs, whether that's NASM, ISA, ACE, ACSM, NSCA, CSCS, whatever it is, go ahead, feel free to reach out to me by commenting below, message me on Instagram at active ACT7VE, as well as shooting me an email at megan@showupfitness.com so I can make sure that you guys have all the questions that you need answered. Now, thanks to our study guide and weekly Zoom calls, we've been able to help over 3,200 people pass this thing, and we can help you too. Now, not only do we want to make sure that you guys become certified trainers, we want to make sure that you become qualified trainers, which is why we have our own SUF-CPT, best CPT out there, money back guarantee, that you'll learn more during our internship course, whether that's online or in person, than you would during your textbook CPT course, that if you feel like that's not the case, we'll give you your money back. Now, the biggest thing that we get from people that have passed these textbook CPTs is that they don't know how to program and they still don't feel confident training people. Now, we may ask, why are we helping you pass this thing? We're helping you pass so you can stop wasting time, spending months, years, reading through this textbook, passing it, and still not know how to train people. Plus, we also realize you may be going to a gym that only accepts specific CPTs, so you're gonna have to pass it regardless. So let's do it as fast as possible. Or it may be too late to get that refund from that big, huge bundle that you got. So instead of wasting the money, let's at least get the paper for it. Then continue your learning by joining our internship, whether that's in person or online. So you have all the tools to learn how to program, anatomy, sales, business, nutrition, everything that it takes to make this a long-lasting and successful career. Of course, those of you guys that are watching, trying to pass the NASM CPT, so let's get to it. Talking about key anatomical terms first. Positioning on the body. So imagine there's an imaginary line in between my body here. So inside, closest to that middle point, is going to be medial. On the outside, further away, is going to be lateral. When I'm talking about in front of my body, it's going to be anterior. Behind my body is going to be posterior. Above would be superior. Below would be inferior. And then we have proximal and distal, which will refer to closest to the center point or any reference point that we're talking to. You'll hear the term distal extremities happen when we're talking about open versus closed chain exercises. Go ahead, check out this video if you haven't already. You might see a question about that, talking about our distal extremities, our hands and our feet there. So now let's move on to planes of motion. There's three that we're going to be talking about here. First one being sagittal, dividing your body between left and right halves. So pretend there's an imaginary line right down the middle. Two actions in the sagittal plane are reflection when I come up, extension when I come back. Key exercises that you're going to see in this plane, most of the exercises we do throughout the day. You could see bicep curls, tricep extensions, squats, RDLs, step-ups, lunges. Basically, you're going up and down, back and forth, straight in line there. Then, when we move on to the frontal plane, our frontal plane is going to divide between anterior, remember front, and posterior back halves. So think anything side to side. There's also going to be two actions here. So when I go away from the body's midline, abduction, and when I go back to the body's midline, adduction. Common exercises you could see in this plane, of course, key one would be jumping jacks, has it at the hip and at the shoulder. Lateral raises, right now we have a challenge going on with our interns, 50 for 50. Doing 50 lateral raises a day. Go ahead, post it on your story, tag us so we can see if you guys are showing up this month. And of course, you have side lunges, you have band walks or tube walking as NASM will refer to when you're going side to side there. So if you do have a question about tube walking, usually it's because our glutes are underactive, which we know they're not, but just know if they are, for the test purposes wise, you would use tube walking to strengthen your weak underactive glutes. That's in the frontal plane. Next plane we're going to have is transverse. So transverse is going to divide the body between superior above and inferior below halves. So anything rotation here. There's going to be four actions that we're looking at. We're going to have external rotation. You can see there. You'll have internal rotation here, internal rotation there. You'll also have horizontal abduction going away from the body's midline, and then horizontal adduction going back to the body's midline. So it's not abduction, adduction this way. Horizontal, think like a horizon, a sunset there. That's where we're coming this way. away, this way, towards. So key exercises that you could see in this plane of motion, obviously you're going to have your reverse flies, your cable flies, we'll have a push-up, bench press. All of those would be in the transverse plane. And of course, any ab exercises that you have a lot of rotation there going on. Those are the planes of motion. Make sure you guys know that, know the exercises that can go in each. Might see a question or two about that. Next, we'll go on to actions. Already talked about a couple of them right there. Now, the funny thing, if you are reading the NASM textbook, we do not recommend it. It's why we have our study guide and weekly Zoom calls, so you don't have to waste your time reading it. But if you are reading it and you come to page 198 in there, so there's 4 actions for the scapula. Now, if you're an SUF-CPT or if you're taking our internship course, you guys will know that there's 8 actions that occur in the scapula. So NASM is going to say that the scapula is going to protract, our shoulder blades go off, retract, go back together, and then we're going to elevate, come up, and depress, go down. If you're a show-up fitness intern, you'll know the other 4 are going to be anterior tilt, going towards that front, right, posterior tilt, going towards that back, and we're going to have upward rotation when I'm doing like a military press, and downward rotation when I'm doing like a chin-up or a pull-up. Those are the actions at the scapula. 8 there. We already went over some humeral actions, but we'll just talk about them again. There's going to be 9 of them. So we'll see flexion coming up, extension back, abduction away, adduction back, horizontal, adduction, horizontal, abduction, external rotation, internal rotation, and we'll also have scaption here. Now, I'm also going to be talking about some ankle actions here. One of the common ones that you guys really should know, may see on the test, is going to be occurring at the ankle, plantar flexion, when I go on my tippy toes here. So as you guys know, the key main calf muscles are going to be gastrocnemius soleus. That's going to be working during that plantar flexion. Kind of confusing because it is extension at the ankle, but it's called plantar flexion. Flexion at the ankle is going to be dorsiflexion here. When I'm on my heels walking up, people call it duck walk sometimes or whatnot, but your toes come off the ground. 2 other ways you'll also see if you were to sprain your ankle, most commonly when you turn your foot in, the sole of your foot's inside, inversion. And if you sprain your ankle this way, horrible, sprain it. Most people don't sprain it this way, but it sucks if you do, called eversion, when your foot turns out there. E, think evil, it hurts, it sucks. Now when you're taking the test, we know that NASM likes to word things very weirdly. It's kind of confusing. So an example for an action that occurs at the ankle would be this. Which of the following actions are going to concentrically accelerate the gastrocnemius? Just pick out the key terms. We know our gastrocnemius is going to be the big guy on the back, right? And we know that when we do calf raises, concentric portion is always going to be talking about the workload here. That's going to be when I'm doing a calf raise. So when I do a calf raise, once again, what is that? That is plantar flexion going on there. Another maybe basic example you could see is going to be the glutes. Now here at Show Up Fitness, that we know that there's 4 actions that our glute max are going to do. But test purposes wise, now these 2 main ones for NASM, we're going to have the glute max. It's going to be involved with hip extension. So I'm coming back here, and hip external rotation when opening up. If you're prior to Show Up Fitness, you'll also know it's going to be helping with hip abduction going away. And also here, posteriorly tilt. So if I look at my pelvis here, when I squeeze my glutes and I tuck it down, my hips are going back towards the backside posterior. If I have a low back arch, sticking my butt out, now you'll see that my hips are going forward, anterior tilt. So posteriorly tilt, squeeze the glutes there. It's going to be an action of the glutes. Now let's talk about muscle during a lift. Key ones we're going to see is eccentric, isometric, and concentric. So when I'm doing a squat, for instance, when I go down, that's lengthening of the muscle, eccentric portion of the lift, usually the easier side. So if I were to do, say, a chin-up, it'd be a lot easier to control myself down than if I weren't to be able to do one to pull myself up. Concentric portion of the lift is when I come up, that shortening of the muscle, the workload that's taking place when I want to breathe out. And then lastly, isometric part of the lift is going to be no muscle change. So it doesn't have to be at the bottom. Obviously, most people will stop at the bottom, pause here, no change in length of the muscle, but I could also pause here. I could pause here. I could pause here. Just no change in muscle length. That's going to be the isometric portion of the lift. So when you're referring to tempo for NASM, let's take basic 4-2-1-1, phase 1 stabilization. We would go 4 seconds down eccentrically, 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 second isometric pause at the bottom, 1, 2. 1 second concentrically back up. Another 1 second isometric pause before we go back into that movement. So that's the parts of the lift. It's again, eccentric, isometric, concentric. These are the key things, basics of anatomy that you will see. You're not going to see a lot on the test, but you guys actually need to know this when it comes to training people, programming, how to properly and safely execute exercises, spotting, technique, all that stuff. So passing a textbook CPT, multiple choice test, isn't going to help you feel prepared or confident doing so. But going through an internship, getting hands-on experience, feedback from fitness professionals is going to help you guys make this a long-lasting and successful career, which is why, once again, we have our in-person locations here in La Jolla, California, as well as Santa Monica, West Hollywood. Don't worry if you cannot commit to the in-person, we are online. You can reach you wherever you're at, anywhere in the world. We have daily calls Monday to Friday, live and recorded, so if you cannot attend the live, you can also watch them at your own convenience. And of course, we have pre-recorded content on there as well. And if you cannot come to us, we will come to you. We have weekend seminars occurring every month or so, so be on the lookout for those dates coming up. And make sure, if you haven't already, to like, comment, share, and subscribe so you do not miss out on any new content that I have for you guys to pass this thing as fast as possible. And of course, remember, if you guys want to become a great, successful personal trainer, all you got to do is show up. It's Girl Megan, out of here.